Hello, everybody, and welcome to beautiful County Mayo, Ireland, where I invite you to join me and I'm sure a couple of others that we happen to meet along the way on not one, but two pilgrimages, and both of them peaceful and prayerful and historical. I'm Bob Dolan. St. John Paul II wrote this of the pilgrimage experience. To go in a spirit of prayer from one place to another helps us to not only live our lives as a journey, but also gives us a vivid sense of a God who has gone before us and leads us on, who himself set out on man's path. A God who does not look down on us from on high, but one who has become our traveling companion. It is in that spirit that we begin our journeys here in County Mayo. One pilgrimage is perhaps Ireland's most famous, the climb up Croagh Patrick, where on the final Sunday of every July, tens of thousands literally follow in the footsteps of St. Patrick himself. And our other pilgrimage, far lesser known, is located over 20 miles from Croagh Patrick. It takes us here, and it's there we begin. So before we climb, we walk. We walk in prayer, in solitude, in gratitude, and for some, even in penance. And as St. John Paul reminds us, we walk with God at our side. Ballintubber Abbey, a place of peace and prayer, has stood for nearly 800 years, and it was built some 800 years after St. Patrick baptized the locals on this very ground. The graves of those who sleep in eternal rest here face to the east because in the time of Patrick, the rising sun in the east was a symbol of their faith. Now the Abbey leads us in worship of not the rising sun, S-U-N, but the risen Son, S-O-N, Jesus Christ. And the Abbey reminds us that those who follow Christ and those who do his will shall never perish. Mary, this is breathtaking. The history of the Abbey, the role that the Abbey plays today, the surroundings, the grounds, it's magnificent. Tell me first about the history of the Abbey.
Well, Ballintubber Abbey is a very special and sacred place, really. And what sets us apart from other churches and abbeys is the fact that from the time it was built in 1216, right up until today's date, Mass has been said without a break. Even though during that time it was burnt down twice, we had the Reformation, we had the penal times. And because of this, it is known as the Abbey that refused to die.
Let me repeat that so it sinks into people like me.
Yeah.
Every day for 800 years, Mass has been celebrated.
Exactly.
Through no matter what.
No matter what.
That is remarkable. That breathtaking fact is worthy of a prayer of gratitude and joy and pride that Holy Mass has been celebrated at Ballintubber Abbey every day for nearly 800 years. Even in penal times, when some priests were killed and those who attended Mass were under the threat of death, that's nearly 300,000 Masses and counting. As impressive, Mary, as the history is, and it is mind-boggling, I'm also impressed by the role the Abbey plays today. I mean,
yes.
we just left Mass. You've already told us of Mass every day for 800 years. Tell me, though, about the role the Abbey continues to play in the Church today.
Well, very much. Big role. We have a little adoration chapel actually before I thought, and we have adoration takes place here every day after 9 o'clock Mass in the morning until 12 o'clock at night, 365 days of the year, which is fantastic for a small little country area like this. We also hold retreats here. We have, during school term, we have confirmation and secondary school retreats, so that's from September till May. And during the summer months then, if we get the numbers, we'd have adult retreats as well. And every Easter, on the Monday and the Tuesday and the Wednesday of Holy Week, we enact the Passion Play out in the grounds. We also have the beautiful stations on the cross starting, and they're carved in stone. And then Easter Saturday night we'd have a procession up to where the waterfall is up there, and then that water would be turned on, so that would be the Easter water would be blessed there on Holy Saturday night. So there's a very active community here all of the time. Around that way we have the Rosary Way, so people come and recite the Rosary here during the day, so we'd have lots of visitors coming just to get quiet time, because it's very peaceful and very quiet here.
A typical day at the retreat, well, primary school, we'd have them come and we'd have them learn a little bit about how to use the fruits of the Holy Spirit in everyday life. And then they'd hear about 7 or 8 different stories of how young people, or how people around the Abbey have used the fruits. And then we'd get them to act out gospel stories and make them relevant to themselves, and we'd have some drama. And then the senior programme, we do a lot about the mask we wear as people, and the affirmation that we need from others. And it's about stripping back those masks and reminding them that they're loved and accepted just as they are. And then in the afternoon we take them on the Tóthar to remind them just about their life journey and all the things that they have to overcome in life, and the change of heart in themselves, something about themselves they'd like to change to become a little bit more Christ-like.
Now, regardless of the age, would there be one common theme or one common message that you want everybody to walk away from retreat with?
Just that they're loved and accepted as they are, and hopefully that we try and give a fresh expression to the gospel message through everyday activities and through showing them that they're loved.
I wonder, my last question, you know, you're there to help them.
Yeah.
However, I wonder if their presence also helps you and helps your faith life.
Absolutely. Well, I think what we try to teach them is about witness and the importance of being Christ for everybody you meet. So if we actually learn an awful lot from them, because an awful lot of them would be involved in the John Paul II wards, where they're helping out already in their parishes. So their witness to their parishes when they go back home is fabulous for us. Like, we take away a lot from it, yeah.
Ballintubber Abbey is also the place where many pilgrims begin a journey on foot to Croagh Patrick, Ireland's holiest hill, some 22 miles away. That pilgrimage begins in the Abbey's chapel, where the walkers are first encouraged to say a prayer and light a candle. Father Frank, by the way, says today's lighting of the candle is on the house. Then this group, which includes my wife Beth and I, receive our walking rules, our marching orders.
You're not tourists.
Father tells us that today we're not tourists, we're pilgrims.
And the first element of pilgrimage that we're going to say that makes the difference between a tourist and a pilgrim is change of heart. Going on pilgrimage without change of heart brings no reward from God. That's what the book of Lismore says, 8th century manuscript. So that means that at the end of the walk, you're supposed to have an insight into yourself as to what about yourself needs changing. It might be only a small thing, but if on the 22-mile walk and climbing Croagh Patrick, if after that you cannot think of anything that you need to change about yourself, you're perfect in every way, you're allowed to ask your companion, is that all right? Is there anything about me that I need to change? Now, the difference between a pilgrimage and a tourist is the tourist can just stay with the little clique that they have. They don't have to deal with such one and such one and such one. A pilgrim tries to include everyone, so there'll be no cliques along the way. And you even walk with somebody that you normally wouldn't walk with, or talk with, or maybe that you just don't like. Because God may speak to you through that person. Or put it another way, that person has something within them that they need to offload. And in the whole journey, the 22 miles and going through the day, maybe you're the person, you might be the stranger that they want to offload what's in their hearts. So that's very important, that you may be the person who brings healing to that person without knowing it.
And our journey, our pilgrimage to Croagh Patrick begins. The path is called Toher Fadrig, or Patrick's Causeway. Some also refer to it as the Pilgrim Road, but no matter what it might be called, it's been researched and documented and verified that this is the path of Patrick some 1,600 years ago. Father, we're about 3 miles in. Are you surprised I'm still standing? I'm doing.
But I'm sitting.
We're both doing pretty good.
Yes.
Let's run over the 6 elements of a successful pilgrimage that you
Yes.
told us before. Let me see how many I can remember.
Right.
1, the one that you repeated often enough, don't complain.
No complaining.
No complaining.
Thanks be to God instead, yes.
Thanks be to God instead of I don't like this, I don't like that. That's a good one for life.
Yes,
Yes.
of course. Because pilgrimage is for life.
Yes, it is.
See, it's not
parallel to
devotion
life. You're right.
This is pilgrimage that's supposed to be for life, and these are the elements for life too.
No complaining, thanks be to God.
Yeah.
Number 2, silence.
Silence, yes.
The importance of silence.
Because the real pilgrimage is the pilgrimage within to the heart, for life as well.
Yes. 3, faith.
Faith, to believe that God is every place, speaking to us, to nature, creation, everything, to other people, but we have to listen. And that's why silence comes in.
God's always talking to us.
He is.
We're not
And
always listening.
No,
Yeah.
not with the heart.
Community.
Community, yes, because contrast to tours, a community, you don't have to meet with some certain people, you can leave them out. However, Christ is the person that you're not speaking to. And you include everyone in the community as you're walking along.
2 more. Let's see. Help me out. I forgot 2 more.
Celebration.
Celebration,
To
yes.
celebrate life, to celebrate help, encouragement. Life is good. We're walking towards the resurrection, the eternity, the second coming, and life shouts out about the resurrection. I see his blood upon the rose and in the stars, the glory of his eyes. His body gleams amid eternal snows. So if we had the eyes, everything is shouting out redemption, creation, resurrection.
And the final one?
The final one now, I think we have change of heart.
Change of heart.
Very
yes.
important.
Yes.
So that along the way, we discover something about ourselves we need to change. And if you cannot, after 22 miles, discover that, you can ask your companion. So if you like to ask me, I'll tell you.
I'm sure
I'm only allowed to say one thing.
I'm sure you already know several. You've done this walk many times,
Yeah,
Father.
many times, yes.
Do you always get something different out of it? Is
Of
it always
course,
a new
yes.
experience for you?
Always a new
It's always
experience.
vibrant.
Always vibrant.
Really?
Oh yeah, because life is vibrant. Every day is vibrant. Every day is different. And you're at a different place on the journey, on the pilgrim journey of life. So therefore, you're entering it from a different footsteps.
God bless you, Father. Thank you.
Thank you.
Because you're asked to walk in silence along here, it just makes it even more profound that you're walking alongside some of the greatest saints of our time and of our heritage, especially here in Ireland.
Does that impact your daily life?
It does. Because you know this isn't just your faith. This is a faith built on a community of hundreds of thousands of years, and you get great comfort from that, especially if you're walking this for a particular reason, and oftentimes you bring an intention with you, and it's just not you and your intention. This is sent out into the faith community, living and eternal.
The area is called Derryhundra, and during famine years something like 3,000 people out of a parish population of 7,000 died here. And there are small stones here. They're really inconspicuous, but they were put there to remember the dead of the time and of the famine era.
Well, to me, this is a very, very special part of the walk. I always loved the peace, and I remember the famine. You can imagine how much they suffered. We're walking today, we've all had our breakfast. It just, we have to think of the terrible hunger that they felt.
It's tough at times if the weather's not good, but isn't life tough at times as well? And it helps you get through tough times in your own life.
It's not easy walking in the rain, even though it's raining here in Ireland every day, but we get through it. We adapt to life and we get through the ups and downs, and that's what the walk kind of, personifies.
I feel like it's a spiritual journey and it brings you closer even to God. Like you feel you're able to pray out here. It's easier to pray. You might find it hard at home just to pray to yourself, but once you've seen things like when we've seen the flags thrown back there, when you think about that at home, even it's easier. You find it easier to pray and you find you're closer to God.
The walk, it was sort of like a community journey. It's like there was people with you, but there were people you wouldn't generally, maybe never have met before, or people you've never talked to or wouldn't talk to, even people you don't like. But you would talk to them, and be charitable and friendly. And there's a great spirit about it, about everyone together.
Out here in the lovely and lonely Irish countryside, during one's long walk, often alone with your thoughts and prayers, you can easily let go of the stress and the noise and the clutter of your everyday life. In fact, you wonder why you even go there in the first place. And it reminds me of something once said by Padre Pio, the saint who bore the wounds of Christ, the stigmata. Padre Pio said, quote, "Pray, hope, and don't worry. Worry is useless. God is merciful and will hear our prayers. Prayer is the best weapon we have. It's the key to God's heart." Unquote. Now, this is a 22-mile walk, so one experiences several weather conditions. In fact, as one Irishman told me, Ireland is so special, we see all 4 seasons every single day. And another added this bit of Irish logic: in Ireland, there's no such thing as bad weather, only inappropriate clothing. The inevitable rain, which was very heavy at times, does make for a messy and a dreary and a difficult walk. I think perfect conditions for a pilgrimage. For difficult and messy and challenging can also describe our journey in life. Our life journey is very much like this specific pilgrimage journey. It can be hard. We've been promised nothing less. Yet, we move forward, we move on, we may get discouraged and beaten down, but we press on because we know the ultimate goal is well worth any hardship we may encounter. We're about at the halfway mark, and we're sore and we're tired, and yes, it's raining, but we finally get our first look at where we're going. We see in the distance Croagh Patrick, and it provides for us a good boost of energy because that's our goal, and we know that we can get to our goal. And come to think of it, to see where we are going on this walk and in this life, and then to determine how best to get where we are going, well, that's the purpose of a pilgrimage in the first place. With the others on our walk, that is, the younger ones on our walk, by now far ahead of our pace, we arrive at the day's destination. Tohar Fadrig ends at this rocky path about halfway up the climb of Croagh Patrick itself. Now, some go on from here to climb the holy mountain. Others, and after 22 miles, this group happily includes us, others go down the hill from that intersection in order to embrace the climb of Croagh Patrick on another day. Croagh Patrick has been here forever, and it will be here forever. It's waited for me for over 50 years, so it can surely wait for just one more day. This view, provided by the Lord above, is more than enough for today's reward. Murisk is a picturesque but very small village in County Mayo. You can walk from one end to the other in less than 10 minutes, unless, of course, you stop at one or both of its two pubs. The ruins of the Murisk Abbey are here. The abbey was founded in 1457 by Hugh O'Malley, an Augustinian friar, and at one time, the abbey was the home of a few relics of St. Patrick. The National Famine Monument is in Murisk as well. It commemorates the famine years during which Ireland lost half its population. The haunting sculpture is often called the coffin ship because it features floating skeleton bodies. Many Irish left from here in their attempt to flee the famine. Too many never completed the trip to America. They died on the journey. Murisk, however, stands apart from any other pretty little Irish village because of what it has for next-door neighbors. One is Clew Bay, the passageway to the Atlantic Ocean. And the other next-door neighbor is Croagh Patrick. This is Ireland's holy mountain. It holds a unique place in Irish history because St. Patrick spent 40 days fasting on the summit, in prayer, in penance, during Lent of 441 A.D. Now, every year, over 100,000 people climb Croagh Patrick, which is also called the Reek. Most of them climb in prayer and in penance, following Patrick's example and literally following in Patrick's footsteps. There are two options for when to climb. One occurs on the final Sunday of every July, called Reek Sunday. It's annually Ireland's largest single day of pilgrimage. And the other option is any other day of the year. You see, Croagh Patrick cries out to pilgrims every day, and that provides for a more private and personal pilgrimage than the big one on Reek Sunday. And on this day, that is our option. Linda, you have a beautiful home.
Thank you, Bob.
I enjoy your home a great deal. How long have you been here?
We've been living here 10 years.
10 years?
Yes.
And it's been a bed and breakfast for how long?
This is the third summer.
Year.
Yeah.
Do you get people from everywhere, Linda? All around the world? Or is it mainly Americans like us? Or where do they come from?
All around the world. I've had Americans, Australians, people from New Zealand, French, get a lot of French people, Germans, Danish, English, and Irish, of course, yeah.
But we're the nicest.
Of course, you're the nicest.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yes.
Now, I would assume, Linda, that most everybody who stays here eventually climbs Croagh Patrick.
Yes.
So, do you recommend a specific breakfast on the morning of a climb?
Yes, I would recommend porridge.
All right.
To start with, maybe some fresh fruit, fresh orange juice. And what I'm doing here, some scrambled eggs and maybe some nice Irish smoked salmon.
And what's the logic, Linda, to that before the climb? It sounds safe, right?
Yes. People, Irish people especially, like their traditional Irish breakfast, especially when they go away and stay in a B&B or in a hotel. But for climbing, I wouldn't recommend it. It'd be difficult to digest, whereas the scrambled egg is easier. The porridge is a good, slower release energy food.
Okay.
You can have your You can have your Irish breakfast the following morning.
Right.
After you do the climb.
Right. So this isn't going to weigh you down. It doesn't slow you down. It's just
no.
a nice, gives you some energy.
Exactly.
To make the climb. And I understand, Linda, you have kind of a secret ingredient, a secret offering for those about to make the climb?
Yes. I grow wheatgrass.
Wheatgrass?
Yeah, so it's grown from a wheatgrass grain, okay? And it takes about 9 days to grow. And that is, this here is the result. And I use a slow masticating juicer to juice it. And so you usually take a shot of maybe 2 ounces.
Right before so that's
first thing in the morning.
Yeah,
first thing in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah. You can eat some breakfast after that, of course.
All right.
But that will give you great energy. Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of like a detox. So maybe I wouldn't recommend it. You know, the first time taking it and then doing the climb. Maybe take a few mornings previous or whatever, and then you can take it that morning.
Okay.
But it's you know, you really couldn't take anything better. It's great for energy.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know, after this great breakfast, I'm not going to feel like taking a climb. I'm going to feel like taking a nap.
No, it's straight up there now.
Linda, thanks for your hospitality.
You're welcome, Bob.
After that hearty breakfast, it is time. This is why we travel to Ireland. This is our pilgrimage. Croagh Patrick calls. We've been advised by those who've previously made the climb, and most everyone in this area has done the climb, we've been advised to include bottled water and layers of clothing in the backpack. Another good suggestion was to visit the shrine of the Infant Jesus and Our Lady of Victories, which is located at the far end of the car park. It's here where it's common to say a prayer asking for a safe climb, and here too one realizes that Mary will be watching over us. It may also be wise, before beginning the climb, to get at least a basic understanding of the history of the hill, both the Christian history and the pagan history. An exhaustive archaeological program took place here less than 20 years ago, and it proved that people gathered on this hill long before Patrick.
There was various different papers written, and we believe that St. Patrick followed all of the main pagan routes which are in this country. So his main process was to convert the important ancient sites over to the Christian faith. We believe that this is one of them. So we have nothing written in history, so the only way to go to prehistory is to have archaeology. So we employed a team of archaeologists in 95 and 96, and they had to do the amazing feat of climb every day, do a day's work on the summit and come down at night. But we were lucky in that the first week they found a buried church, and they were able to carbon date some material they found inside the church, and it was dated between the 5th century and 8th century AD. Now we know that Patrick was there in the 5th century, so it's quite possible that this church was built while Patrick was there or very soon after Patrick was there. They also discovered that there was an enclosing wall around the summit, and beneath the collapsed wall they found jewellery of a Roman nature, and a jewellery expert was able to date it 500 years BC. So it means that there was a person up there wearing Roman jewellery 1,000 years before Patrick came, and the wall had collapsed. So this is a very important thing, because we know that the wall was there before even the jewellery was there. I think that Patrick knew that this was an important site, and he came to conquer this important site for Christianity. And there's no doubt, even people who are weak in their belief and weak in their faith will find that there is something on the summit that brings them back. You are closer to nature, and there is a spirituality on the summit. You do feel closer to God.
Well, you see, you know, a lot of places, you know, you can hear stories about places and, you know, oh, is there anything there? If you can't, a lot of people, unless you can see it, they don't believe it, you know what I mean? So I suppose what the conclusion for us was, we did find this oratory, this early Christian oratory. It would have been one of these, what they're called upturned boat-shaped oratories. So it obviously brings a whole new dimension to it, you know, that you have a pre-Christian pagan settlement up there, a very important site where, like these sites, even to the pagans, were places that touched the sky. You know, you can see even Croagh Patrick today, it's in the clouds. So these places were revered.
The pilgrimage up Croagh Patrick begins, naturally, at Patrick's statue. Now, from start to finish, it's about 2,500 feet of elevation, and the round trip, we are told, will take somewhere between 3 to 5 hours, assuming I live that long. There are 3 stages to the climb. The first stage is a gradual incline. The path is rocky, and the footing can be tricky. The second stage is much more level, but it's very windy because at this height, you're very much exposed. At this point, you've completed most of the elevation rise. Most of it, not all, because the final portion of the climb is very steep, and one must proceed with caution. Now, one may begin the climb alone or in a small group, but it does not remain that way for long because there are fascinating people to encounter. After all, we're all on the same path. We're all on the same journey. Well, this is one of the reasons you take a pilgrimage, to meet fascinating people along the way. For example, we're going up, this gentleman's coming down, we struck up a conversation. Your name, sir?
Brian Johnson, a Franciscan brother.
A Franciscan brother?
Yes.
So it's Brother
Brian, yes indeed.
How many times, Brother Brian, have you climbed Croagh Patrick?
Oh, it'd be embarrassing to say. I've been quite often.
You've lost count.
Yeah.
Do you find something new out of it every time?
I do indeed. It's just a fascinating holy mountain, and I come here for a variety of reasons. Today it's mostly peace for the war that's broken out in the Middle East again, and of course for the tragedies we have had with the mother and baby homes in Ireland.
Sure.
That of course is also on my mind, and just general intentions for our missions where I've spent many years as well.
Brother, when you talk to first-timers like myself, I've never made the climb before, I've got a whole lot of expectations about how I'm going to feel when I get there. What do you tell people on the first time? What do you think? How do you think most of us are going to feel?
You will feel wonderful, absolutely wonderful. It's a huge achievement, and it's a tough walk, and you need to take a little rest every now and then and take in the sights and the views, and you'll have no trouble. Just take your time, walk slowly.
I'm good at the stopping and resting part. You can tell that already.
Well, it's like Thich Nhat Hanh. If you walk in mindfulness, you'll get there in no time.
That's right. Brother, you're a real joy. God bless you.
Okay,
thanks for stopping, okay? Be careful going down. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
And safe trip up.
We're about between a third and a half the way up. And I already know this, that St. Patrick must have been in great shape. Well, I needed to rest, so we flagged down the first person who was racing past us. And that happened to be Father Pat, who was sprinting past us. Seems like we've been on the hill forever, and you're just going at a much quicker pace than we are. You're a veteran, though, aren't you?
I've climbed it quite a few times, going back to possibly when I was 10 years old was the first time I climbed it, along with my brother. But I climb it quite often, more times than I care to remember at this stage. But each day is different.
Is it?
Each day is different,
really?
You know. And each time you climb Croagh Patrick, it's different from a weather point of view. Even as we're climbing it today, you can see how the weather changes. but also from a personal point of view. Each of us are in a different place when you climb, in the sense of there's something else on your mind or something else you want to think about or pray about, or maybe there's somebody has asked you to remember them, and this is a great place to do that. And also from a physical point of view, it doesn't matter how fit or how well you're feeling, this mountain will always challenge you.
What kind of stories do you hear, Father, from the other pilgrims who make the climb, Greek Sunday or any day?
Well, one of the things that you probably noticed on your climb today is that people are very happy to say hello and to stop and take a breather when you meet them on Croagh Patrick. And people very easily and gently just begin to tell their story. And the sorts of stories you hear along the way here are for different people praying for somebody in their family who may be ill, or somebody who's preparing for surgery, or maybe awaiting the results of medical tests, and they felt that there's one thing they could do for that person, and that would be to climb the mountain for them and to say a prayer for them at the top. There's those sorts of stories. There's also people recovering from maybe addiction or struggling, or maybe difficulties in their family, maybe disagreements in their family, and they're praying that some resolution may come as a result of it for their climb. So the number of different stories you can hear on Croagh Patrick are as varied as the number of people who will climb it.
We have arrived at the final stage of the climb, and it is much more intimidating here than how it looked from ground level. It is remarkably steep, and you look to your left and you look to your right, and you literally see nothing but the sky. Now, some decide to stop here. Their pilgrimage, they decide last minute, is complete, and they're content to have made it this far. But most people move on. Most move up. As one woman told me, it feels like I'm climbing closer to heaven itself. There's a small church on the summit, built over 100 years ago by 12 local men over a 6-month period. The guardian of the summit, including the church, is another local man, John Cummins. It's his role to maintain and upkeep the top of this holy mountain. And every now and then, that includes preparing the church for the celebration of Mass. A pilgrim feels blessed indeed to have climbed the Croagh and to discover that on that specific day, Mass is waiting.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. The grace and peace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with you all. So you're very welcome to the top of Croagh Patrick today. It's a very special place. We have reached the summit of the mountain, where we believe St. Patrick spent many days during his first Lent in Ireland, 40 days and 40 nights. So we come here in this very special place to pray together for whatever intention is in our hearts as we come to the top of Croagh Patrick. May we come to share in the divinity of Christ, who humbled himself to share in our humanity. God had chosen you to be Mother of His blessed Son, Holy Mary, full of grace. Ave, Ave,
Our journey to Christ is accelerated and enhanced on a pilgrimage because, once again using the words of St. John Paul II, it is the inward journey which seeks to move us away from whatever in us and around us that is contrary to God's law, so as to be able to encounter Christ fully. Well, up here on Patrick's summit, that encounter and God's law is oh so present. In fact, it's right in front of you. My Crow conclusion is this: it is physically demanding going up, and it can be treacherous going down. A walking stick is highly recommended. There's no reason to hurry. This is not a race. It's a journey, just like life. So stop and rest and pray and reflect and embrace the scenery and the views.
That my young love came in.
And most importantly, recognize the fact that the people walking alongside, both up and down the holy hill, are all facing the same challenges. We're all in this together. The challenge of this climb, certainly, but also the challenge of living a faith-filled life. Understand that it's easy to go off the path. It's easy to get discouraged and just give up and turn around. But when we do, we must recall what was said by the newly risen Christ on the road to Emmaus to the two apostles who had also turned around. When they heard the words, "You are going the wrong way." Those you meet on the walk are friendly and encouraging and supporting. They want you to get where you need to go, and they're willing to help. It's on this hill where you may finally comprehend and understand, as I did, that we're all brothers and sisters in faith. We're all hoping and searching and praying for the same thing. Many pilgrims who come to climb on Reek Sunday, the final Sunday of every July, begin their experience the day before, Saturday, in Westport, which is the largest city closest to Croagh Patrick, about 5 miles away. So they stroll and they shop and they pub. And they attend Mass at St. Mary's Church. Yes, many of those who tomorrow will walk and climb, tonight will kneel in prayer.
Well, I suppose traditionally, the opening of the pilgrimage has always been done here in this church. 6:30 this evening, the Archbishop speaks. He gives his homily for the Reek, for Croagh Patrick, at this Mass. So I suppose it's the start of the pilgrimage, really. Today is also the feast of St. Joachim and Anne, so there'll be reference, of course, to the grandparents as well, to the Catholic Grandparents Association in that Mass. But I suppose it's the Archbishop's chance to deliver his homily for Reek Sunday.
On this pilgrimage weekend, we pray that as we retrace the steps of St. Patrick on our pilgrimage, we too will be granted a discerning heart.
It's a special day, and it's always a great day in the parish. It's a tremendous sense, particularly on the top of the mountain, of the faith of people in a very real way, in a way that you mightn't capture otherwise. And I suppose I got accused of maybe being sexist before for saying it, but there's something about the pilgrimage that's a male pilgrimage. And there's loads of women on the mountain, don't get me wrong, but when you go to Knock or you go to wherever, a lot of pilgrimages you find it's mostly women. Mm-hmm. In Croagh Patrick you find it's proportionally proportionally higher number of men than you might find in other pilgrimages, and the number and the quality of people who come to the sacrament of reconciliation. A huge part of the pilgrimage is confessions on the top of the mountain, and there's we say on Reek Sunday now, tomorrow morning, there'll be confessions there from 7:30 in the morning until 2:30 in the afternoon, with about between 6 and 8 priests hearing constantly. So there's a great volume through there as well. There's certainly a devotion to Our Lady in this parish, and I suppose there's a huge, among the Irish people, there's a huge sense of connectedness. But tomorrow's pilgrimage is specifically around is specifically around St. Patrick, and I suppose it goes back to the roots really at the opening of Patrick's own Confessio. I Patrick a sinner, and ironically, or maybe in some way coincidentally, the words of Pope Francis himself as well, when he was asked who he was, they were his first words, I am a sinner. And I think there's something of the penitential aspect of all of us. Hopefully the reality that we are sinners in some ways called to be saints. And I suppose that there's something very sanctifying about the pilgrimage. Traditionally, the pilgrimage to Croagh Patrick was one day in the year. It was the last Sunday in September, the last Sunday in July, and that was it. Now the pilgrimage to Croagh Patrick is done every day, and Croagh Patrick is used for a variety of reasons. But I think we can never be close to the reality that the people who are climbing Croagh Patrick have some sense that it is a holy mountain, and have some sense that they're in a holy place.
Thanks for your prayerful participation in our Mass this evening, and to all who are making the pilgrimage. I hope that you will have a safe pilgrimage and a safe return to your homes. I look forward to seeing some of you on the mountain, please God, tomorrow.
And after Mass, even though we all have a long and difficult climb ahead of us first thing the next morning, after Mass one enjoys what might be called the preparation celebration. There's only one more pint. There's only one more sleep until Reek Sunday. The crowds gather before dawn. There are pilgrims making the climb all day. Mass is celebrated on the summit every 30 minutes. The sacrament of reconciliation is offered all day. This is Ireland's largest single day of pilgrimage. Some years the number of pilgrims is estimated at between 7,000 and 10,000. Other years it's been as many as 20,000 or even more. Some make the climb barefoot. They do that out of respect for the holy ground upon which they walk, and they do it for an additional sense of penance.
From its rolling coastal waters I can see Croagh Patrick Peak, where one Sunday every summer the pilgrims climb the reek, where St. Patrick in his solitude looked down across Clew Bay, and with the ringing of the bell he called the faithful there to pray, there to pray.
This would be my 45 times. 50 years today I climbed the first time. Yeah. There's something spiritual in that mountain. But I go up to pray for anything I want to pray for, and anything I pray for, I got it.
Because I think it's a huge achievement, and it's my fourth time to do it. Especially when you're thinking of someone when you're climbing it, you know, they're in your mind anyway. So yeah, my granddad passed away recently, so doing it for him today. So if you go to
Well, the thing is, I haven't done it before, and my sister said, I have a treat for you, and it turned out this is what it is. I have never been here before. And then when I was coming up, I said, what is my intention every time I go on a pilgrimage, like to Medjugorje or to the Holy Land or to Rome? It's for somebody else. I said, Maureen, you're getting older. You better start thinking of the last days. I'm praying for a happy death. Be prepared.
I met my wife 13 years ago and she climbed it, and I'm climbing it ever since. And during hail, rain, everything. But like, there's something that I just like to do, and all the different people that you meet, and it just refreshes your inner self. The difficulty of it as well, when you look up there and you see the big, huge climb, and you just put down your head and keep climbing away, and you see older people doing it. They're doing it in bare feet. We're doing it in boots. There's people going up there in bare feet. I don't know how to do it, but they do it.
I did it in my bare feet for the last 2 years, and this is my third year. And the first year I did it, it was a long, long time ago, and I had a lot of drink. So I said, I promised myself I would always come back and do it again. So now I'm hooked on it. It's a sacred mountain, so out of respect you come up and do your bit of penance and go away then happy, feeling good.
In the beginning it was a bit hard. I think I had to get used to it. I never climbed the mountain before, so at the end I got more used to it. But in the beginning I told my boyfriend, slow down, I can't keep up. So
I find it actually okay. To be honest, the fact I've done it a few times, I'm well used to now this. I know what to expect and stuff like that, but when it's your first time, I think, yeah, it's been more of a tough climb because you don't know what to expect. If it's clear, you get a lovely view of Clew Bay and stuff like that, so that's a lovely achievement as well. And then if you, as you said, if you're someone in your mind or stuff like that, like, it's a lovely sense of achievement that way too.
Very, very, very good. We went to Mass there. We had Mass at 8 o'clock, so we left here at 6 this morning to go up. So I had a heart stint put in last year, so I need to do the exercise anyway. So it's very good exercise, yeah.
Well, I attended Mass there at the top. I just was in time for it, and I found it very tough. Yes, it's the first time I did it, and I'm not a young person anymore, as you can see. Well, I had some personal reasons for doing it, personal intentions for members of my own family, so that they'll do all right in life. At a few times I nearly turned back. I thought I wasn't going to make it. So when you get to the top, I think you feel you have made a little sacrifice, I hope.
Well, climbing from Croagh Patrick is a very personal pilgrimage, and it's my 22nd time doing it, and I think we all need to do something special every year for our asks, and I think we bring all of our problems and our asks and all of our friends' asks as well to the top of the mountain and leave them there, so it's a very special place. It's very difficult, and the older you get, the harder it's getting, and today is my birthday, my 54th birthday, so it's not getting any easier. Oh, I think it's just that witnessing and that renewal that you get and the feeling that you get at the top of the mountain, nothing beats it.
A pilgrimage is many things. It is first and foremost a prayer. It can also be a sacrifice. It can be a form of penance. It is exercise. It's an opportunity to use the scenery, the companionship or the solitude, the peace and the quiet, to reflect on where we are on our journey and to recommit to where we are going. Thus, if someone offers the opportunity to do pilgrimage, they're not testing our courage. They're not testing our physical endurance. They are testing our wisdom. For it is the wise and humble person of faith who will quickly determine that a pilgrimage offers everything we need to grow closer to Christ.